Hello, all 5 or 6 of you. Welcome to bonus lecture number 6, WebKit. This is actually pretty fun to mess around with and to play with. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you I'm going to give you another overview of it and a quick demo, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what WebKit is built on top, one of the frameworks that WebKit is built on top of, and that's the CFNetwork framework, or the core foundation framework. So let's get started. So Apple's definition of WebKit is a little dry. Core classes display web content in Windows by default implements features such as following links clicked by the user, which is really dry. So immediately people think, oh, well, browser. Well, I've got a browser, right? Well, there's a ton of stuff that you can actually do with WebKit in terms of displaying content, displaying dynamic content. Not only does it have to be, does it not have to be on the web, but you can also display local files, and you can also set up MIME types like you can with the HTTP servers, and display all kinds of different data. And a lot of times it's easier to just kind of quickly format something like a document and throw it in WebKit, a WebKit view, and you'll see how easy that is in just a second. So WebKit lives when you pop up an interface builder. WebKit lives as a NS web view or UI web view widget or object. All you need to do is drag it out, and you have WebKit available in a view. That's really all there is to it. WebKit's all built on, you probably knew this already, WebKit's all built on open source framework. It's available and still actively updated. And they've added a lot of HTML5 features in it, which have migrated and made their way into WebKit on iOS and OS X. So let's do a demo of building a web view and building a dynamic content on a device. And it's one line of code, really. I mean, past the dragging the object out into Interface Builder, it's this one line of code. Each one of these pieces I'll break down as I'm typing it in, and I'll tell you what some of the specifics are. Really, this is handling a lot of the data management and specifying how URL is going to get resolved and cached and everything. But basically, all you need to do, we'll make a new project with a simple view to start off with. We'll call it WebKit demo. Sure. So we're just going to start with a standard view template project in iOS. We go to the zip file. Where do I have the? Yeah. Go to the zip file. That looks really wide, and I forgot that the resolution is much lower. Drag a web view out, centered on there. Go to the controller, and I'll do the lazy thing later, but for right now we'll just do oops. So make an outlet for it, connect it up in our zib. We can hijack the view that's already there, but I've just laid it over or I've made it a sub view of the regular view that was there. You don't need another view to embed it in. It's a view in and of itself. Go to the view controller, and after the view is loaded, we're going to say, what we're going to do is we'll reference the web view, the IB outlet, and the appropriate method for this is load request. It's weird. Thank you. So we'll do a load request, and then load request takes an NS URL request. Basically, I'm going to kind of hand wave that away, but basically what it is it encapsulates a URL or a URI and abstracts it away and allows you to specify like caching options and things like that. It provides kind of the bridge between a raw URL and upper level services. So we want an NS URL request, and we're going to say a request with a NS URL, and we're not going to specify any options here. We're just going to use a raw URL, and then do a NS URL, and we want a NS URL, and we're going to do a URL from a string. And we're going to ask for, we're going to just say, we're just going to put Apple's web address in there. Cross your fingers. That's it. So you have a full web browser in a view, one line of code. Follows links, handles JavaScript, plays video. Let's see if I can get back there. No, not by now. So we've got to scroll all over this web page. So there's probably a way, besides simulating the pinches and drags, there's probably a way to make this thing smaller, which if you open up the zib, click on the web view, go to its attributes, go to its attributes, scales page to fit. There, done. It handles all of the functionality of WebKit right in a view. Plays video. So you've already got this rich multimedia view in one line of code. There's a whole bunch of documentation on ways that you can customize and specify its behavior, but it's really, really straightforward. The web view itself, the subclass itself, also provides additional methods like go back. So let's put a big ugly button on our web view. Put a big ugly button out. We'll make a nav tab. Actually, the sample project that I have for today's lab has got a nav tab on it, and we're just going to call it back. And I'm going to be lazy this time. Ooh, not got a whole lot of room to work with here. Oops. All right, let's see if I can make this.
Take a little circle away with it there.
Thank you. So we'll make an outlet to the button, back button, connect it. We'll make an action, IB action for it. Back button pressed. Connect that. Switch back to our source. Go to the back button pressed IB action, and we'll say web view, go back. Done. It's amazing, really. And you can load, like I said, you can load what's nice about the NSURL request is that you can load all different kinds of media, and you can specify caching options, and it's really full featured and bundles a whole bunch of functionality up into a single view. It's really, really easy to use. The high level overview of WebKit is you basically have web frame views that handle the partitioning up of frames of the site. Each one of the frames has got views, the main frame, and then the models that are associated with it. These are all. This is underneath the hood. This is what's going on. You don't have to worry about any of this stuff if you don't want to. It's all taken care of for you. Diving a little bit deeper and looking at the layers of the API, WebKit sits up at the very top at the highest level abstraction. Next to is the CFNetwork Foundation. The NS Net Services foundations that handle things like the APIs for the core foundation networking code down below. It handles things like managing URLs and figuring out where servers are and handling the DNS inquiries. Then you've got the core foundation network and the services, which I'll talk about in a second. And these, in kind of standard networking stack fashion, handle higher and higher levels of abstraction. You can dig down as far as you want and get all the way down to the socket layer if you want to, the BSD socket layer, which it's built on. A really brief overview of the CF networking framework. I'm not going to go into detail about it. It's you have to really love networking to want to deal with it. I love it myself, but I'm not going to bore you with it. But it's actually really cool. The CF network the abstract overview of it, of the framework itself, works with the lowest level BSD sockets at the very bottom level. It's responsible for encrypting connections, encrypting data across SSL connections. It's responsible for resolving DNS host names, working with web pages, and handling interactions with servers. And it does all that at the lowest level the second to the lowest level, so that you don't have to deal with multiple connections for web pages and loading images asynchronously or text and images asynchronously. It also handles working with FTP servers at its one of its lower levels, and then it's also responsible for publishing and helping to resolve the Bonjour discovery mechanism, which is if it just kind of hand wavy in a nutshell. Bonjour is a way that you can use more English, human-ish syntax to discover and find services that are available on your network, whether they're HTTP web browser services or FTP services, or any service any custom service that you could create. iTunes home sharing uses this exclusively it abstracts away a lot of the old connection and handshaking architecture that you used to have to use in multicasting to try and discover services, or hard coding addresses and IP addresses and domain names. So the very lowest level foundation, there's links on the lecture slides. There's links for the lowest level, and which is the CF networking programming guide, and then you've got a slightly higher level, the internet starting point, that has some really cool sample code that you can check out that does a lot of client server stuff with iOS devices. You can set up servers and clients on your phone and servers and clients on any Mac or any device that runs Unix. And be able to transfer data back and forth. And it does it visually with pictures. It's pretty cool. That is it. The lab today is explore and play with WebKit. It's really cool, and this is just a starting. I just kind of gave you a taste of what it can do. On the lab are links for the relevant documentation, but there's no tutorial for it. It's just dive in and play. The example, I wouldn't jump right to the sample code that I posted on there. That's for future reference, and it's a little more fully functional browser. Shows you handling delegation with WebKit, which lets you recover from errors or have progress indicators that when the pages are loaded or stop loaded. Has navigation buttons to go forward and backward, and highlighting and turning them on and off, whether or not the browser history, where you're sitting in the browser history, which is all handled under the hood by WebKit. We've also finished commenting on project proposals. If you haven't gotten, you should have gotten a notice by now. If you haven't gotten an email, a direct email from one of us, then if you're working with a partner, make sure that your partner didn't get an email and not you. There was a couple proposals that didn't have your partner's email address, and I had to kind of make best guesses on which one it was. And if you still not sure where it went, come see one of us and we'll track it down. All right? Questions? Play.